Deputy U.S. Marshal Boyd.
Given, Raylan.
The infamous Boyd Crowder.
Either you let me go, or I'm gonna have to give you the slip.
I love this shit. This shit makes me hard.
Just happen to be driving by, huh?
No, I put a motion detector in.
Last I checked, you were a marshal too.
And as a lawman,
I'm suspended.
And then you go all railing on him and drag him out of some restaurant by his nutsack.
They underestimate me at their peril.
Him? People underestimate Bob at their peril. I got mad ninja skills, buddy.
Yeah, you know karate.
And 2 other Japanese words. There is one thing I wander back to. We dug coal together.
Some of the previews that I've read about here, the non-spoiler, blurbs that some of the various media outlets have put out, have basically said this is your sort of counterpoint for Boyd Crowder, and that you can see in this some similarities as far as the sort of native genius that the guy has in some ways, maybe recklessness in other ways. But I think what this is meant to be is not necessarily an alternate universe Boyd, but a Boyd who is devoid of, because again, what's the term? And I used it in the recent spoiler-free review that I did of Justified for the FDH Lounge. The term, it's a cliche, but frenemy. I mean, Raylan would probably say more enemy than friend, and sure, probably heavier on that side of the equation. But what was the last line of the Justified series? We dug coal together. And that was the heart of the relationship between those two. Again, they grew up, their dads were criminals, with the Crowder family kind of, employed Arlo and everything like that. But they were the kids that were coming up in the crime families. Boyd stuck with it. And Raylan left town and went on his own path with the Marshal Service. But I feel like this is a version of Boyd that is devoid of anything that, and again, as much as Raylan might, even if you put a gun to his head, might deny that there was any warmth towards Boyd, but that would be a lie, because there was always at least a little bit of, maybe the last season he didn't have to work too hard to hate the guy, but leading up to that, it was always at least a little bit conflicted, right? This is just like if you had a Boyd Crowder and they were just like arch enemies, and it was Superman and Lex Luthor, and it was one of those kind of deals. And it's a thing where this guy is different enough from Boyd that I'm having a hard time picturing here, and I feel like I could go either way on this. I'm going to ask you what you think, and I'll go with whatever you think. All right, this is an intriguing what-if scenario. If Boyd and this guy ever crossed paths, and he saw this guy menacing Raylan's daughter, I think Boyd might have had a little bit more fondness for Raylan than vice versa. I'm not getting carried away here and saying that he loved him like a brother or anything. What do you think?
I don't think Boyd asks a question. I think he straight up pummels that dude's face on spec just because he knows who the daughter is.
Okay.
There was a sense, and a little bit more Boyd for Raylan than Raylan for Boyd, but I definitely get the sense that in that moment, Boyd would have saw it as his responsibility to at least squash that out and ask questions later. I don't think he sees that and keeps walking.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. It's the daughter of the guy he dug coal with. You ever watch Bullet? I mean, it's an amazing movie.
From the 70s?
1968, baby.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Okay. But it's one of those things where, and I got a sense in watching this, and it's one of the things that just really impresses me about a project when I see this. It feels like you're watching one story, and then after that attack, another story's playing out. And I just really admired the ability to make the viewer, maybe it was just that I got so sucked into what the story was. The same thing kind of hit me here, because when Clement, he's tailing the mark, and they're getting ready to, chase him and whatever would have happened to him subsequently. And the thing with the judge, when he's coming out of the garage here, when he started following the judge, and it was just like, and at first I was puzzled as to why. And, you said off air, it must have just been, he must have figured this was another rich guy, another potential target basically from the car. But it's like, it felt like they were telling one story, and then now this other thing happened. And it's like, and obviously that was the script, but it's like, that's the mark of a great project, when they can suck you in and they can make you believe it was supposed to go this way, and then something unexpected happened and they had to write it another way. It was just...
At some point, we are going to have a conversation about AI, and it's a whole unrelated thing to this. And then that in part with the Screen Actors Guild, and then the actors strike, we'll just call it. This is one of those things that I believe is going to get missed in this whole AI in movies conversation. That's the result of a quality writer's room.
Yes.
Now, you can tell a computer that here's what we want, and they can spit out something that works. However, I don't want to include you in this, but I'd like to say you and I both know that there's a process there where somebody's going down the Albanian casino, going down that path, and we know what that is. And literally, they laid out a trope that we all can go, okay, I know what happens next.
Yeah.
They did that so beautifully and then just pivoted.
Right.
And the only way I think you get that is a bunch of writers are working on the Albanian casino hit line, and then somebody just goes, hey, what if we did this?
Yeah, a robot wouldn't do that. God, that's...
No.
What a perfect point by you. What an amazing point. Very timely, like you said, for what's going on now, because AI is a concern on both the writer's strike and the actor's strike side of this, and the way that that can possibly play into it. This is the human touch. This is the human touch writ large, going back to Elmore Leonard and the way that it went. And again, the whole Primeval novel that he had done, or short story. So I don't know how much of the specifics of what we saw tonight was lifted from that. It was a lot it was adapted. It's possible Elmore Leonard had that twist in. I don't know. And this is the thing here, too, and this is the thing that just shows you how great of a grasp Oliphant and then Graham Yost also have on Elmore Leonard's work here, is that is not a Raylan Givens novel, as I understand it. It was a novel based around other characters and stuff, but Timothy Oliphant read it, and his quip to Rich Eisen was something like, hey, we could strip this for parts. The differences in the story here of basically playing Raylan as an older character, which, by the way, this is one of these, I love whenever I can slip in any kind of super nerdy kind of point that nobody else is going to make in the world here. So the world of Justified, you could kind of pin it down on the time frame here, 2010 to 2012, because it was on until 2015. But if you look at the whole time frame here, the vast majority of the show was probably the time when Winona was pregnant, ironically, with this child here, because it was from towards the end of season 2 to, I think, she gave birth, probably off air between seasons 4 and 5. So I'm guessing about a 2-year kind of a run, which is ironically what Breaking Bad was, 2010 to 2012. They're saying that this show is set 15 years in the future. So we're actually watching a futuristic show set in 2027. So it's a little depressing that I don't see hoverboards yet. Science is continuing to fail us here. We're not going to have hoverboards in 2027. And I'm very proud that that's probably not a point you're going to hear from anybody else. Only I'm enough of a Justified nerd to pick up on that. Playing him like he's the aging gunslinger, and and playing him in the whole fish out of water thing, because in that first thing, he's in that courtroom there, and they're trying to take the things that he did, because he said something like, you were going to put this black person in the trunk, a white person in the trunk too. All these things he did down there in Harlan. Nobody was ever going to call him a racist, because he was only ever going after the Peckerwoods of Harlan County. But you do that stuff up in Detroit, and it's a different context. So they're playing it all. I mean, he's older, he's grizzled, he's all these things, and he's in a place where being Raylan Givens isn't played as being cute and funny by the people in this urban setting.
No matter what the situation is, you're absolutely right. No one's going to say anything because they're Peckerwood types, except Limehouse. If we go back to the Limehouse episodes, you understand from body language and tone, there's a sense that he's not going to handle it the same way. Yeah. So while I totally agree, the thing that's interesting here, Raylan's default position on the whole trunk thing is nobody's above getting put in the trunk. Mm-hmm. It's not a race thing, which then leads me into another point that I definitely wanted to get. Lovely segue on your part.
Okay.
That Raylan Givens, as you mentioned, is the grizzled old gray gunslinger. Within, even if it's in Detroit, within law enforcement circles, how has nobody heard of Raylan Givens?
True.
And how is when his name come up and you hear that he was going to put a guy in the trunk, how is their response not, that's a Raylan thing?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not being delusional and saying that every police precinct or every detective in every market knows everybody. But in this fictional world, you got to think that the guys in Detroit, especially since, if I'm not mistaken, Quarles and the whole... Remember there was a whole mob that came up from the north?
Detroit, yeah.
So Detroit should have known.
Yes.
So the fact that the lawyer, who is getting on my last nerve already... the fact that she's trying to pull these, like, very typical lawyer tricks with Raylan, like, parading him in the courtroom, like, you were going to put this black man... No. He'll put anybody in the trunk.
Right.
That's not... You can't make this a preferential treatment thing, because Raylan don't give a damn.
Right.
If he's told you to shut it up, and you don't, and you persist, his first move is not to hit you. It's not to handcuff you to something else. It's not to do anything like that. The next move is you're going in the trunk.
Yeah.
So on some small level, I feel like some of these Detroit cops should kind of know who Raylan is.
Yes.
But that's a choice that they made, and that's fine.
Well, and that would rise... I agree with you so strongly. That would rise to the level of the plot hole, except for one exculpatory detail that I'm going to bring up here. So let's just establish how right you are that in the world of law enforcement, this name should be known. You go back to the Drew Thompson thing here, and that right there, that's a career maker, or that's whatever, because it was the equivalent of D.B. Cooper.
Miss.
Yes, Mr. Cooper.
You might want to take a look at that note. I have a bomb. See you again someday.
Whoever solved the D.B. Cooper case, we would know who they are. And then additionally, you go to season 6 at the end with Boyd Crowder, all the twists and turns, the manhunt of that thing, the choppers, all that stuff, and Raylan brings him in, without firing a shot at him. You're absolutely right. The only thing I can say in defense of the writers here, and that would not make this a plot hole, is going back to my previous statement 15 years down the road. 15 years can be a while. Now, I tend to agree with you. 15 years should not be long enough to where this guy would be, not know. By the way, too, it being set in Detroit, there's potentially a third marker in your favor on that. And that is, now again, I think Art Mullen ended up getting more credit than anybody else, but for bringing in who? Theo Tonin, big boss of the Detroit mob. But Raylan was right there on bringing in the big boss of the Detroit mob. One would think in that city, even 15 years later, it would be, you were one of the guys that brought in Theo Tonin. You are right. I have a hard time letting them off the hook for this. I'm playing devil's advocate, but I can't quite let them off the hook for what I think you've identified as a plot hole.
Again, it's a choice. It's fine. It's not a huge deal. But just even if we keep it to within movie, TV realms, it's kind of like the notion that someone would not be familiar with Kevin Costner movie. He plays...
Yeah, the Untouchables?
Yeah, the Untouchables.
Elliot Ness.
You have Elliot Ness. It's like having someone as big as Capone, maybe not that big, but a figure like Capone, and then having Elliot Ness come from somewhere that's not there. He's in your neck of the woods, and he takes down Capone. That should be something on people's minds for probably the next quarter of a century. Yeah, I don't want anybody watching this to get the impression that we are suggesting that we could make it better.
No.
Now, you and I both have written scripts, script Bibles, stuff, right? Like, we understand what the writing process is.
Yep.
And by no means want to belittle what they've done here. I saw an interview with Kevin Smith one time where he was asked when does he know when the script is done? And his answer, which is pretty great, is a script is never done. It just reaches the point where I've revised it enough times that I am willing to give it to the studio.
Yeah.
You ask a writer, there's no point where you can say, I'm done revising. There's always a revision to do.
Yep.
So, yeah, if the writers of this show were to spend 10 years on it, you know, maybe these are questions that they would have addressed, or they would have come to the conclusion, we're doing it this way for a reason.
Right.
And there's a very, very good possibility. We just haven't seen what the reason is yet.
6 episodes to go. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't want anyone to get confused and say we're nitpicking this or saying that we could do it better. Although, if you were going to take two people who have script writing experience and have an affection for Justified, I'd like to think we'd do a decent job. But by no means would we put ourselves ahead of the writers in that room.
With all due humility, I'd like to stick our hands in the air and volunteer to be in the room for if they do another limited series here. I mean, that would be awesome.
You go.
I wouldn't say that. But
I'd like to wait till the strike is over.
Exactly. I don't want to end a career that hasn't even gotten going yet. And that by the way, and I guess it's been taken down now, but the real scary Ron Perlman video, I'm sure you saw that over the weekend.
Did you get a chance to see it first?
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of people in the world that would frighten me on some level.
Yes.
And then there are people that I don't ever want to be on the wrong side of. I watched that video 3 times before I figured out what he was talking about.
Yep.
Once I figured out who he was talking about, I went, oh, remind me to never piss off Ron Perlman. That is a person I do not want angry with me about anything. Nothing could happen, and I'm still losing sleep for a month if I'm Bob Iger.
I got secondhand fear. I wasn't the one being threatened, and I was like, oh, I just about pissed myself. I mean, look, thank God Justified City Primeval was in the can before this thing happened, and we were able to see this.
Technically, the fact that it was in the can and ready to go before the strike, that seems to be the consensus of where the line is, right? We aren't going to, you, me, anybody else that has any hopes of doing anything beyond the point you're at right now, no one in their right mind should be promoting anything that's yet to release.
Yes.
Seeing a lot of social media people out there getting excited because they're getting phone calls from producers.
Yeah.
Walk away, man. From Oppenheimer back is safe.
Yeah.
Everything post-Oppenheimer is just a bad idea.
Yes. And this is one of the best summers of TV that I can remember in a long, long time. I mean, having this as a crown jewel is just amazing. Because, again, we were seeing tonight as we were watching it here and going through all the ads, and I was ragging on you about you get to see how the other half lives, having to sit through FX ads. But, you know, seeing ads on there for The Bear, which freaking awesome. I have loved season 2 with that. I
was afraid you were going to do this.
Yeah.
I knew this was coming.
That's another one. I'm giving you noogies here. I'm reaching out and giving you noogies that you got to watch The Bear. So
you, Rick Morris, prognosticator of quality television.
Yeah.
I freaking knew you were going to tell me that I had to watch the next show I've been avoiding. Because here's the thing. There are millions of people who swear by this show up and down.
Yep.
And every clip I've seen of it, again, just it like triggers this inner depression where it's like, how depressing is this show going to be? But so many people are glowing in its praise that I had. If you even mention it, it's like, okay, it's going on the list.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be in the right headspace. So it's like if things are maybe not great in the world for you at a given moment, put it off. This is how I do. I cycle through things depending on how my mood is. But I thought we were going to get Shoresy season 2, but I was apparently wrong.
Justified for you and me is probably higher on the level of, oh my God.
Yeah.
However, if Justified's the crown jewel.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to jump into Righteous Gemstones or what's the other show you love?
Succession. It just ended recently, but yes. That's
so,
the summer. Yeah. But
so while I can't speak to those shows because I'm not watching them yet, I'll just defer to you on that.
Yeah.
So if it's Justified as the apex, And then you have some supporting jewels.
Yeah.
Shoresy Season 2 is in there.
Yeah.
In July, I'm still flabbergasted at the volume of people who either have not watched it or don't unapologetically love it. I think it is maybe the greatest thing to happen to sports television ever.
I had thought mistakenly that was coming back this season. It's not part of this crop I'm talking about, but it's like at a point in time like this, like to have this crown jewel of Justified City Primeval. It's not like it's on a barren landscape. It's something that's here that we're really enjoying at a time when there's a lot of other great TV.
I do want to circle back because we got a couple more points on Justified. We got to go back, and I apologize in advance. It was one of those things where you look away at exactly the wrong time.
Okay.
And we're watching this thing together. I happened to get distracted for a second. My ears picked up Dewey, and then I hear you off in the distance yelling that it's Dewey Cox. Did we get a Dewey Cox reference and I missed it?
Dewey Crow. She said that
I'm sorry, Dewey Crow.
And I yelled out Dewey Crow. So this is, yes.
And the other real big sort of like just had me cackling in my seat here. Then later when he, again, zigs when he's supposed to zag, he's got the judge's assistant in the car with him. They drive a distance. She makes a break for it, and I hear off in the distance, you can't outrun a bullet. Can we please, for the love of all you find holy, can we please factor in, I don't care about endorphins, I don't care about stress levels, when is Hollywood, and if not, human people in general, going to realize you do not outrun a bullet, especially if your serpentining skills aren't on point. And all Game of Thrones fans out there will remember, Rickon, you have to serpentine. You can't run the straight line. So the moment she makes a break for it, it's like, you're dead. I just noticed the time. You are an absolute trooper for hanging in this late. So let's do a quick little rapid fire segment here real quick.
What do you got in mind?
First of all, shout out to anybody from Detroit. I just need to know, as someone in my 40s, that means that in the 80s and 90s, I was in school. I was a kid. One of the things that I remember vividly is rocking cross colors. Mm-hmm. And if somebody in Detroit can tell me, can confirm or deny that a cross colors jacket is available in Detroit in 2023, you need to let me know. So, that's just something selfish for me, because if cross colors are out there,
okay,
somebody on this side of the situation needs a pair of purple shorts, like, immediately. I'm just going to say something, I just want you to react to it.
Okay.
Anytime an established criminal of any stripe
mm-hmm.
is sitting on a couch in a residence that is easy for authorities to find, and as soon as they bust through the door, guns drawn, their response is, took you long enough.
Yeah.
I'm already worried for how deep the villain goes.
Yeah.
Hey, fellas, what took you so long?
He may not be the greatest criminal of all time, but don't sleep on him, because there's something not right in his head.
Well,
if he's just sitting there waiting.
In the Justified world, who did that put you in mind of immediately? That kind of a quip. Who did that make you think of? Who would have said something?
Oh, it's very Boyd. It's so Boyd.
Yes, it's very Boyd-like. You said it's a trope, and it's a trope specifically from this show that Boyd would have done any number of times. Matter of fact, we're probably sleeping on this. Boyd probably did say something like that at once.
Whoa. No shotguns allowed in this dining room. Toss it outside. Well, come on in. Come on in, sit down, help yourself. It just occurred to me that Randon Gibbons invites me up to Lexington. Chances are I might find myself in front of a judge before the day is out.
Why, did you do something you shouldn't have?
Well, that's a pretty low bar, Raylan. Brings you up to the holler, Raylan.
Just need a word.
Why don't you go make yourself at home on the porch?
You have any explosives on you now?
Do you want to pat me down?
No, I'm sure you're fine.
If you come back to welcome me in the free society, that's awful wide of you, Raylan.
So that's the thing where it was meant to put us in mind of him. And again, Boyd, for all the different, shadings of him and whatever, what's the one word you undeniably put on the man? Formidable. And that brands this man as formidable. So yes, that was a great call.
Now, I would say that if it was Boyd, he would not show up looking raggedy with some worn-out cowboy boots. He'd have a vest and a pocket watch, and he'd look pimping. Is all pimping.
Button to the top. Absolutely, yes.
Now, the next one I wanted to get into, I'm just going to recite the two lines that made me cackle out loud. I don't know if you caught that. Okay. And literally did that thing that some people do when something's so funny, intentional or unintentional, that they will run out of the room. It's so funny. You ready?
Okay.
Yeah, I smoke weed to relax when I'm stressed. Well, you better get your hands on some really good
It helps me relax when I'm stressed.
In that case, the way things are going, you get your hands on some really good.
I don't know why I thought that you were going to make a parallel here and try to identify who the equivalent of Father Pat is on Justified City Primeval. Who would it be? I don't. The short answer is nobody out of that cast. Yeah.
I'm hoping if there's an answer, we just haven't met him yet.
We know what the landscape is as far as the top tier of characters. We're going to meet one or two others, I'm sure they're going to factor in to some degree. But essentially, this is the core of the ensemble.
With that being said, the one little side note to that is, while I'm sure you're correct, I am still holding out hope that we will get a Jim Beaver type.
Oh. I see I'm going to get the same deferential treatment you gave my deputies. You got a line on Roz?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, how's that going for you?
I'm dealing with a love-scorned teenager.
You draw this, Benny?
Uh-huh. You want, I'll sell it to you.
It's not really my taste. Lacks a little in composition, but you sure got the likeness right. You coming? Or you want to stick around here and push the kid around some more?
Oh, one other thing I just kind of wanted to throw at you real quick. It's not so much a bullet point or anything.
Okay.
And maybe it's because I'm familiar with the actor. But I really like Sweetie. I'm just terrified of what's going to happen.
Well, if you're looking for a gun, that's easy. Is it this one? Or that one? Or maybe I can interest you gentlemen in this pretty little 22. Now, unless the piece you're looking for is one of these registered firearms, there's somebody I gotta call.
He feels like, and I'm trying to, he doesn't have any of the menace of, say, Devil, but he feels he feels like the doomed functionary, doesn't he? The doomed sidekick.
Devil, this road you seem bent on taking, once you go down it, there ain't no coming back. Now I'm offering you a way out here. You choose to take it.
You're gonna save it. Ain't any way you talk yourself out of this.
Don't you know that you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire?
I guess we'll see, won't we?
I was going to say, Devil's probably the closest comparison, right?
Yeah, but that was a guy where it was he always talked bigger than he was and everything like that. And this guy is the opposite. He seems like a little bit scared of the circumstances. But it's a thing where, he's sort of devil-like in that way, maybe one other of Boyd's flunkies, but he's the sidekick who seems doomed, and then they're teasing out the deal with this defense lawyer of where, again, that Because on the one level, you are meant to seriously root against her. She is somebody that is being set up as an obstacle of Raylan's. But it's one of those things where here's I'm trying to think of her name. Was it Wendy Crow, the one that Alicia Witt played in season 5?
Yeah.
Okay. A thing of where Raylan was trying to flip her the whole season, and in the end, she did when, spoiler alert, she ends up shooting her brother's nards off. You get the sense that the arc may be the same, that Raylan may get to flip her at some point here, because she's already shown as being somewhat conflicted about the path that she's on.
I absolutely felt a way about Carolyn, the defense attorney.
Yeah.
All the way up until the point at which the writers wanted me to feel differently.
Yes.
Which is, again, a sign of good writing.
They're master.
But when she meets up with Sweetie and basically kicks Raylan and the other detective out, Wendell.
Yeah.
There's kind of a moment. It takes about 3 to 5 seconds. But there's an exchange.
Manziel's back in town.
I'm well aware. He came to see me, made it clear to me that if I wanted to keep you out of trouble, that I still represent him.
They're both reserved to the idea that, oh yeah, you should just move forward with that because this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
But you get the sense that, yeah, she's reluctant. This is, while I don't like her tactics and I think it's kind of cheap lawyer tricks.
Yeah.
I have a feeling in the next episode we're going to start to become... She won't be in our corner necessarily, but we're going to start feeling a little differently about her. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude our Justified City Primeval episodes 1 and 2 review and reaction show. Now, we would like to invite you to come back to our respective channels each week, as we'll be covering this show every step of the way. And with that, Rick, any final thoughts you'd like to add?
The entire Justified world, this is why I love talking about it with you, is that, again, you love to get in there in the weeds with me. You have the same approach to fandom I do, of the constructive thoughts here, and that, you know, we're not homers. We're not blind homers shilling for it, but we have a love that is very pervasive of it, and it kind of oversets everything that we do of it. So great approach to just be able to get on here every week, break it down, call it the way we see it. There's just nothing more to it than that. And we'll keep doing that. So thank you very much, Jason.
If it hasn't been effectively conveyed to this point, anything Justified, spin-offs included, is a labor of love for us, and we genuinely enjoy bringing you this content. For now, we're wrapped on Justified City Primeval episode 1 and 2. We do hope to see you next time for episode 3 and the rest of this series. Thanks for watching. You guys have a wonderful day.